Alright, welcome to the channel, and today we'll be talking about the Enleum 23R amp. And this was sent out by Enleum as a demo amp, and they are not asking me to say or anything other than my honest opinion regarding this amp. So let's dive into this thing. So going over the build and aesthetics, it's very, very nice. It's got a nice, lovely gunmetal color to it. It's got this really cool ridges along the sides to help with heat dissipation, as well as like a nice aesthetically pleasing look. It has these really cool feet on the bottom of it that you can actually take off, and without the feet, it's about the size of a fairly large book, but it's still like a book. I mean, it's crazy how small this thing is for what it's capable of. And one of the other factors is once you have the feet on there, they actually have a really cool technology in them, similar to like high-rise buildings and whatnot, where any kind of shake, they have shake dissipation. So like for the high-rise buildings, they have that earthquake or high winds where it will prevent too much damage from sway, what have you. So it's the same kind of technology in the feet of this for prevention of vibration and whatnot, shock and vibration to your amp. So yeah, pretty cool feature there, and like that a lot. That's kind of cool that they did that. Some other parts of it is it's a just really simple, clean, minimalistic look to it. And with that size as well, it's like just this lovely thing that you can just put on your desk, and it doesn't take up hardly any room, and it's very cool how nice that is. Like there's something said about having an amp that can just be out of the way and give you your desk space back a little bit if you have any other amps on your desk for like tube amp or something like that, or DAC, what have you. It's nice to have something that's a little bit smaller that is still as powerful as this is. But anyways, back to the build of it. Overall materials, the feel of the metal as well as the feel of the volume knob is quite nice. The volume knob is I think it's a digitally stepped attenuator, and it feels nice to turn. It has a nice volume control, but it does have this little click as you go. It's a digital like click 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 as you go, and when you're listening with your headphones or your speakers, it actually does, it is audible in your speakers. So that's kind of a naggle, but I didn't really, it's nothing that was gonna super detrimental, because once you get to the volume you like, it's you don't even worry about it anymore. Let's see, another cool feature of that is that when you unplug or plug in headphones, it automatically goes down to 0, which is very cool. I love that feature a lot, and it's very cool, very nice. You can actually also, real quick, you can actually also turn off that feature where it goes back down to 0 or null, and that's in the settings, whatnot, and there's a manual on how to do that. But I personally dig on the fact that it does do that, so you don't have to worry about blowing your speakers out or like anything along those lines. Also, like just the lines of it as well, as far as aesthetics and in the engineering of the case, it's very clean. Like there's nothing, there's no like mismatch or anything like that. It's all put together very nicely. I was very, very impressed with it. Really digging on the aesthetics and build, and then the overall like quality of the materials and the way it just the metal feels, the colorway that they did, like that gunmetal. It's very nicely done. A little bit of a fingerprint magnet, but nothing horrible. And yeah, so build aesthetics are spot on and lovely. Oh, and real quick before we dive into the sound, is the other thing that this thing comes with is this really cool remote. It's kind of the same polish and build quality and machined, CNC machined aluminum, I'm assuming. Just really sturdy and it has a nice heft to it, and the buttons have a nice like click with it. It's kind of a soft click, but it still is there. It's a nice click, and I don't know if you can hear that over the click of the thing, but it's nice. It feels good. It's very simple, not too many buttons on there. The power, input, output, and the volume. Well made and designed overall across the board. This thing is definitely well put together. All right, so with the sound of this, and something that's really cool about it, kind of going back to the build aesthetics of this does have speaker taps, and it does, I believe, some different, it's like 25 watts, I think, is what the max power output for this is, and which shouldn't technically be the best for my KEF Metas, But for whatever reason, this with my Kefs, it sounds fantastic. And I have tons of volume play as well while using my Kefs in near field, and it sounds fantastic. Like, I was really, really impressed with how well this powered the Kef metas. And that's really cool. Like, the fact that it does that for how small it is and the power output that it's doing, it's kind of a magic trick to some level, in my opinion. I don't get why it's making them sound so good, but it's a marvel of engineering right there. It's really, really nice. Maybe it's just the quality of the power going to the Kefs instead of just straight up overpowering things, but it's nice. I really dug on the sound. It had a really nice stage to it. The imaging was really crisp. The lows were nice and controlled. And this is kind of going to be a theme. This thing's just a really solid state amp. Like, it does, like, I've yet to have anything where it, sometimes you'll, like, my Fonder can be overly bright sometimes, depending on what you're using with it and what have you. And this can do that with some of the things, like the Susvara did get some brightness going too much, but we'll get into that in a bit. But with the Kefs, it just was very well controlled. It sounded excellent. I was really impressed, and I really, really dug using it with the Kef metas. And yeah, fantastic with that. So on to the headphones I tried. I tried a gamut, all of my headphones, and all of them were fantastic with this amp. The highlights were probably the HD800 SDR modded one that I have. That was, the low end just really came alive and kind of reminded me of a tube amp. It just really engaged it a lot, and everything about it just was fantastic. The Focal Stellia, another lovely pairing. It was a little more controlled, had a lot more easy to get along with kind of vibes going with it. The VO and VC were also my right up there with my top, especially the VC. The VC just became this punchy, super, like, dynamic, fun, engaging headphone. And then the two that I'm going to focus on for this, though, are the classic Susvara, in the sense that this is the amp that everyone seems to think is the best amp for these. And in my experience, this is the best I've heard the Susvara. And the Susvara is not my favorite headphone. So take that for what it is. But this didn't make me all of a sudden decide to like the Susvara, but it was the best I've heard the Susvara. And it's everything that's good about the Susvara is here as well, and everything that's bad about it is there. And it's fantastic. Honestly, it high gain mode, there's so much power left and so much play that you can do with the Susvara that I fully appreciate and understand why people are saying this is the best amp for the Susvara. And I agree. I think that as far as that's concerned, and all the amps I've tried prior, everything from, the benchmarks to the, like, speaker amps, that kind of thing, this is easy to use. It's a plug and play rather than having to try and make it work. This just works, and it sounds fantastic for what it is. But once again, not my preferred listen. In fact, I'm not really a big fan, but hey, whatever. Oh wait, I can't throw these. These aren't mine. Anyways, on to the next headphones that I actually were everything that I wanted the Susvara to be. These actually performed to that level for me, and that's the Rosin Rad Zeros. Like, the low end fun, like, just way punchy, way dynamic, way super fun. Great, just mid-range was where it excelled above even the Susvara to me, preference-wise. The highs were lovely. This is where it was at. This was fun. This was a very fantastic pairing with the Enleum AMP-23R. Like, and it just looks nice too together. Anyways, so those are my two kind of things, like probably the things I was wanting to say the most about this amp as far as headphone pairings. I would say my favorites, definitely the Rad Zeros, definitely the Verite Closed and VOs. The HD800 was a nice surprise in the fact that it really came alive the way I usually expect from, like, a tube amp. The Aeolus as well was a fantastic listen. But yeah, so anyways, let's go on to the next part of this. Bakun 13R compared to the Enleum AMP-23R. And I'm looking down at them. They're both here on my desk right now, which is crazy to have that, I mean, what's, yeah, kind of nuts. But, um, so the 13R makes the Enleum 23R look big and massive even. Like the 13R is proper tiny. Like I'm so impressed with what that's an engineering marvel. Like that properly, like how it's able to basically perform the same amount as the Enleum, but in almost half the size. And I think it's, I mean, part of it's due to the fact that a lot of the components in the amp are actually built into the feet, so like they can, like the transformers and whatnot can actually go down into the feet, so you get this really thin profile, and it's aesthetically, I much prefer that. Like it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful looking amp. Some of the things with it, like I really like the red coloring on the knob. It's a really beautifully well done colorway that they did and polish on that. The overall aesthetics is very, very excellent. Really dig on it a lot. One of the naggles I do have with the 13R though is the volume control. And so in the volume control, it's a forever spin type of volume knob, which feels nice to use. It's easy to use and really nicely done. It's a lot smaller though than you'd think. You know, it kind of goes hand in hand with the smaller amp, but it's this little knob. And anyways, the volume as it goes, there's these little LEDs that go. I think it goes 1, 2, or 1, yeah, 1, 2, or 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then once it goes past 9, it goes to 10, and then it starts over on the 1, 3. So it's kind of like it's going through the different steps. And for me, it was quick enough, but it just was not really. Like it was almost too slow for my where I want to control the volume. Like it was just a little bit too slow for me personally. But that's like a super picky naggle. Like it's not a big deal. And in fact, I do actually like the aesthetics of that like dual light LED as it goes up like 1 through 9 through the 10 to then back through. Like I think that's really cool. And then on the Enleum's about, I mean, if you were actually to account for the feet of the 13R, they're about actually the same size, to be honest. But because of the design way of the 13R, they're actually, with the feet on the Enleum 23R, it actually stands a little bit taller. It's about a third taller with the feet on. Without the feet, they're about the same size, to be honest. Just more cut out on the 13R. And you know, pretty nice, but the volume control on the Enleum is more to my preference. It feels nice. The volume knob is really nice to use and turn. The volume control with the both remotes is really nice. I will say though that the polish on the Enleum, especially with the remote, like the remote for the Bakun is plastic and like it's just plastic, where the Enleum is this lovely CNC CNC aluminum volume controlled remote, and there's a little more options with the Bakun with those little buttons, but they're very plasticky, and and the buttons are clicky, but not, and it's just plastic. It doesn't feel as good. It's super light. It's just, I don't know. It's not my favorite remote. So that's once again, I'm nitpicking things that are not important in the grand scheme of things. But as far as comparisons go for these two, that would be a thing. The overall sound difference that I noticed with these was that they're almost spot on similar, like they're very close, and it'd be like I had to really A/B to really get like the really finer points of it. But I did find that to my ears that the Enleum 23R just performs slightly better in certain areas than the 13R, and that could be volume matching and whatnot, and going A/B back and forth. But to me, it did seem to have more control on the low end. Like the lows had a little bit more cleaner punchiness to them. The imaging was a little bit more crisp. The stage felt a little bit wider and deeper, but it was like very mild. And depending on which headphones I was using, it was hard to kind of like pick it apart and figure out where it was at. But it did, you know, my perception of it is that the Enleum 23R is performing slightly better than the 13R, which makes sense if it's the evolution of that one. They, you know, better components, what have you. So it is that next, you know. And how much of a difference to your ears is going to be up to you and your capabilities of hearing things and whatnot. But they're very, very similar performance. But I would say to my ears that the 23R did seem to perform just slightly better. All right, so final thoughts. This thing is a marvel. The fact that it can do and fill so many roles for me is a win. Like, it does my kefs for my speakers, near field. It can do my corn scolas as well, which is fantastic. I didn't really get a chance to do a full rundown of that, but it did and is fantastic with my corn scolas. Stupid good, actually, but I mostly listen with my kefs and my headphones. And for that, the fact that it does my metas, it does my headphones, and it does it to the level that it does is a win. And the fact that it is so small and fits on my desk so easily and gives me so much real estate back on my desk is fantastic. Marvel in engineering. It looks gorgeous. It's a beautiful looking amp, really lovely controls, and I don't have any I didn't have hardly any problems with this thing. Like, the biggest problem I had was the fact that it has the digital little clicks as it volumes up and down. Like, everything else on this was fantastic. And for me, like, even that is such a small naggle and small, like, nitpick that it's not even worth really talking about too much. Like, it's ridiculous. This thing's a fantastic amp, and it's expensive, but it does fill a lot of roles. It does the speakers, it does your headphones, and honestly, it's the most powerful freaking headphone amp you can get. Like, the fact that it powers the Susvaras as well as it does, like, you would never have to worry about a headphone amp as far as solid state for powering any headphone. They'd power anything you need. But yeah, stupid good. It's just fantastic. So with that, I think definitely well worth the look into. If you give it a chance to listen to it, definitely give it a chance. It's one of those kind of rare amps that just does a lot of things and does it very well. I'm thoroughly impressed with it. So yeah, on that note, give it a go if you get a chance, and it's fantastic. I really recommend it. It's lovely, and I'm going to be sad to see it go, but maybe one day I'll get it in my budget to get it on my desk permanently. But anyways, I'll let you all have the rest of your day back. Cheers.